Yo,
Yo, Yuji.
what's up, bro? Wait, I have to remember who. Do you know the right here, right now guy on
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
He
yeah.
always he always calls you. Oh, Jonah. Is it Jonah Hill?
Yeah, he calls me Jonah Hill.
What's up, Jonah Hill? How are you?
I'm good, man.
That's
Is
good.
and just for your prompt, is there a convincing reason to believe God exists?
Uh-huh.
Right? For you to even make that proposition, of course, God exists in some sense. Because what are you referring to? Nothingness?
What do you mean? What am I referring to?
Right? Because you're saying God exists. Well, of course, God exists. How would you make that proposition if God didn't exist?
How would I make the proposition? Wait, I did not even. It's not even a proposition. It's a question.
Well, how would you make the question God didn't exist if he didn't exist?
Why?
If
Why
God was
can't I?
non-existent, how would you make that question?
I don't see where there would be a problem with God not existing, and I answer the question. Do you think it's
For
impossible that
you
I
to
ask the?
ask the question,
Yeah.
you're referring to God's existence.
Okay, why should anyone think that?
Because I'm just, okay, Yuji, what I'm saying here is for you to make this question, God exists regardless, right? For you to ask this question because
Yeah,
God can exist conceptually, right?
yeah.
So if you're saying that this is your question and your
Hmm.
question's a real question that actually exists in reality, your question includes God. Therefore, God exists in reality as your question
Wait,
posits
wait.
God.
Okay, let me try to understand what you're saying. There's two ways in which I think what you might be trying to say. One is that because there's the term God, in which I think what you might be trying to say. One is that because there's the term God in the question, and because there's that term, that means that God exists. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, the term itself makes God exist. Now,
Okay.
what God that is up for debate. But for you to even ask this question, obviously God exists.
Okay, so
Even
then
even as do God concepts exist?
okay, wait. Are you saying that God is only a concept?
I'm not saying he's only this or only that. I'm saying regardless of the fact, whatever
Okay.
position you put him in, you put him in the category of existence.
Okay, so
Even
if
if
I
it's conceptual, it would
okay,
still render God existing
right, right.
conceptually.
But if I ask a question with the term God in it, could it be true that God only exists as a concept, or is it necessarily the case that God exists um as an entity like in reality, in the set of all things that actually
Well,
exists?
you're gonna have to, how do you even grant this objective reality? What if this
Wait,
is
wait, can
all
you answer my
just
question though? I asked
well,
you a question.
I'm kind of sort of answering it, right? If I hold this some sort of subjective idealist position,
No, no, no.
right?
What
How would we come to the conclusion of this objective reality in the first place?
wait, Kai, what do you think I'm asking you?
You're asking me, if God is a thing in reality, not a concept. That's
No, 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 no. That's not what I'm asking you. Okay, so let me ask that question again so that you can actually answer it. Because the question I'm asking you is because you said because I mentioned the term in the question that God exists. And um I'm trying to ask you is if I mention the term God, does that mean he actually exists and has an ontological existence, or are we just talking about a concept? That's the question.
Yeah, and I'm basically saying, how are you saying concepts don't hold ontology?
Wait, wait, wait. I didn't say that. I asked you a question. What is the answer to the question?
Does God have ontology or not have ontology?
No, because let's stick to
You
the
using the term God, or
yes,
does that
exactly.
equate to God having ontology?
Yeah, is it necessarily the case if I use the term God that God actually exists
If
and
it's
is
a
not just a
logically
concept?
possible God, yeah, it would be an actual God. It would actually be God that actually exists in
Okay, okay.
reality.
So if I mention the term God, then it's not it doesn't mean that God's just a concept, it means that he actually exists. Okay.
Well,
S-
the term God is defined as some sort of eternal necessary existence.
Sure, sure, that's fine. Okay, but what is the reason? Why would anyone think that if they mention a term, that that means that whatever the term is referring to actually exists in the real world? Like if I say there's a unicorn, you don't think that that means that a unicorn, it necessarily means that a unicorn exists, right? So why would that be the case for
I don't know. I would say that even if it's a concept, it still actually exists. It just exists in a different sense, right? So, but
yes, yes, but right,
you're
remember
putting
what, okay, sorry, go ahead.
yes, when you say he's ontology, he's concrete. Sure,
Mm,
one of
hmm.
these concepts, regardless of the fact, would be concrete because we have God, we have pantheists, right, who hold the universe as divine. Are you saying the universe doesn't exist?
Well,
Right?
hold
So,
on. Yeah.
regardless, one of these concepts
No, no,
are the case.
no, no. First of all, I take it that concepts are abstract and concrete objects are not abstract. So, but what I am asking is God a concrete object? And that he has some existence in some sense. And
Ye-
I will grant to you that, there are concepts of God. Like I have a concept of God, and other people have concepts of God. Like I have a concept of God, and other people have concepts of God. And if you mean God exists just in that way, that's fine. But I'm not asking, what I'm actually interested in is wondering if there is an object out there that has a mental state that created the universe that people call God. Does that exist? That's what I'm
No, some would say knowledge would be a necessary precondition, consciousness itself, right?
hmm.
Hello.
But
What's up,
regardless,
Rebecca?
Yuji, I just want to say
Those
that's
with an AR
exactly
sound
my
too much.
point there, right? When you say, does God exist? Yeah,
Uh,
God exists when I say God is the universe. Yes, God exists to an atheist when I say God is a Coca Cola bottle. But when
but
I
wait,
say God is a transcendental mind, that's where the problem isn't with God existing. The problem is God indeed a transcendental mind? That should be the prompt going because God being the universe, you're going to concede to, bro.
okay,
I
okay.
I have
Oh,
a first no, it's okay. I have a first-hand experience experiencing like a really incredible miracle happening in my life, and
mhm.
I feel a lot of people on this earth, so many people have experienced beautiful miracles where you can't explain like why these things happen. So I'll just share my experience and why I choose to believe in Jesus.
Or okay, Rebecca. I'm gonna let you actually share your experience, but just for the sake of the life, could you please keep it as short as you possibly can?
Yes, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I was going through a hard time when I was about 15, and through my family, my mom and my dad. Oh, okay, let me do this fast. My mom
Thank you.
my mom had vivid dreams with my dad, and even one time they had the same exact dream, and my mom at this time was very close with God, had the exact same dream. When I was going through a hard time, I did not believe in God. When I was 15, I had a
Hmm.
dream that I was holding a cup of water, it was turning black, basically saying like I was going down the wrong path, which by my choices I was. Then I had to live with my dad. And when I was living with my dad, I was asking God, or I was just asking because it was the hardest thing I ever gone through. It's like, God, like, if you know my heart, if you really truly see righteousness, you will like bring me out
Welcome
of
to a
this situation.
schizophrenic episode, by the way. I just want that to be very clear.
You bring me out of this situation. And um I had a vivid dream of lions protecting me. In the Bible, it says Jesus is the Lion of Judah, which I didn't know until very recently. This was a while ago.
Hmm.
But I also, like, during that time, 2 years had passed. I was going through hard times, but Jesus kept giving me dreams and dreams of animals protecting me. Vivid, vivid dreams. And then
Hmm.
one day, I just woke up feeling like my situation was going to change. These are feelings I didn't give myself. These are feelings given to me. These are dreams given to me.
Hmm.
And I had a prophetic dream that my situation was going to change. And I went to sleep, had a dream that my dad was helping me pack, and I went to a or my situation changed. And the very next day, my dad tells me, "Okay, Rebecca, you're going to a Christian boarding school," and actually, it was actually the best thing that like ever happened to me. So
Okay.
that's my experience where just God was there for me during the hardest of times, and
Uh-huh.
this is just a very small testimony of so many things He's done in my life.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Like, and I'll respect that. But do you think that if that experience is evidence, well, do you think that that experience is evidence that God does exist to you?
I feel like I have too many experiences exactly like that one,
Well,
where
I'm just
it's
asking, do you think that experience is evidence for God existing?
I think that this world is an example of why God exists because of how perfect it is. How
Okay, but
perfect.
wait, I'm just asking you, do you think that that experience you just described to us is evidence for God? Like, yes or no?
Um, it's I think that's too broad of a question. Like for me, it's there's so many things. It's not that specific one. God has like is huge. God created this entire earth.
Okay.
He created you. He created me. He created everybody. We have
Like,
these beautiful emotions in our heart. We have this beautiful mind to even
s-
think and
so
create.
you can't answer the question then, is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that this world is a very clear answer on why God exists. The
Oh, so you
trees
can
that
answer the
give
question.
the yes, it's true. The trees give you
Oh
oxygen,
my God,
honey.
Rebecca.
The trees give you oxygen that you're able
Okay.
to breathe. And
I,
we're
pre
to
I
every single
appreciate it,
day
Rebecca.
that you're
You're the
alive.
goat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This how why did you not call her schizophrenic? That was unironically what she was.
I
What? What is going
don't know,
on?
bro. I don't know. I try to be, I try to be nice, but
Oh, you're
I don't
too
know.
nice,
Maybe
man.
maybe I shouldn't. What's up, Pucci? Did you want to say something?
No. I'm an atheist. I'm just an
You are?
atheist because I'm an atheist. Like there's no argument. I'm just like, man, I'm just an atheist, bro. Like,
Are you actually?
yeah, yeah, I am. I actually
Oh,
am.
okay, okay. I
I'm a
didn't know
fan.
that. Are
Yeah.
you? I think I see you in like the pro-life or
Yeah, I'm also pro
pro-choice.
life. I'm pro life.
You're pro-life too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. That's what's up though. So, well, you can hang
Yeah,
out if you want to. I'm gonna let
there's
some
no good
people.
arguments, Pucci, for defending your atheism. So
What?
that's a
Wait,
good
what do you mean?
stance.
Wait. What do you mean? There's no good arguments. I'm familiar with the arguments, but what do you mean that there's no good arguments for defending atheism?
You're as an
Hey, can you hear
atheist,
me?
as yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 second,
What's up?
Polantis.
As an atheist,
as a
Uh,
what?
global atheist, you're denying all God concepts,
I'm
right?
denying all.
There's
Yeah. Well,
global
yeah.
atheism and then there's local atheism. So if you hold
Yeah.
to a global, atheist view of I deny
Mm-hmm.
all concepts of God, I mean, I don't even know how you would
so
articulate that.
can I ask
Yeah.
you a question?
Wait, can I let me see what like Kai has to say like really quick.
Just wait one
Yeah.
What?
second, Polantis. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
Yeah,
what?
if you
Okay.
deny in all God concepts that,
Mm-hmm.
God doesn't exist. If my
Mm-hmm.
God concept is a shoe
Mm-hmm.
exists, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you would deny reality to
I don't know
deny
what you mean
God.
by deny reality.
Because God, but you understand that God concepts is
Mm-hmm.
what it's a title, right? God is a title. Now, the
Sure.
concept of what I apply this God to be is the
Yeah, you
description.
presuppose
And if
that
my
God is the
description of
creation.
God is
Yeah.
something like the universe,
You, yeah, you
Pucci.
presuppose that God created all of this. Yeah.
No,
I
no, I'm
understand.
not, dude. You're not listening. If I say God is the universe, okay,
I don't think
Pucci,
God is the universe.
does the universe exist?
I believe that the universe exists. Yes,
Okay,
independent.
so the universe is a God concept,
I don't
and
think the
God is the
universe is bigger.
universe.
That's a big of the question,
So
Kai.
being
Come
a
on,
global
come
atheist
on, man. Come on,
is a
Come on.
shameful position.
Kai, come
But
on. That's a big of the question. You just said being the universe is a God concept. I'm still waiting for like argumentation as to why that's the case.
have you heard of pantheism, Pucci?
I don't know.
Natural pantheism?
I would like you to elaborate on pantheism. I'm
Yeah,
like,
natural
imagine I'm a sub
pantheism is
IQ like
just
fifth grader.
expressing the divine
Mm-hmm.
in the universe as we see beauty, we see meaning, we apply
Mm-hmm.
purpose, right? So we apply
Okay.
God as this divine thing, right?
So you
So
want God to be like
Okay.
so the
physical?
universe is God.
I'm
So
glad you
why do you
think
need to
that.
call it God? Why can't you just call it the universe?
Because you have to understand all worldviews have to have some ultimate
No, they don't.
foundation.
Not beautiful beg of the question again. Beautiful.
What?
Like it's just perfect. It's like the second beg of the question. Thank you. Can we go
No
for a
one's
third one?
begging the question.
Dude, you're just like, look. Let me just like restate why it's the back of the question. Look, you already believe that all of these things are God concepts, and you're just saying, oh yeah, they are God concepts. You're already asserting this. Dude, I'm not convinced that they're concepts that are indexed to God, and you're just saying that they are doesn't really prove anything, man. Come on.
I'm not here to prove natural atheism is
What?
or is not a God concept.
Can you answer the
What
question?
the
What extra information are you giving the concept by calling it God?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
extra information? This is just a title, is God, right? That's what you would posit as the ultimate thing in your worldview would be God.
But
Right?
wouldn't you need
The
to have some
unifying
extra
thing.
information to give it a new title?
You,
It's already
dude,
got a
that's my whole
title.
point. That's the whole point. Is you being atheist is just disliking the word God. It's
Look,
laughable.
well,
So
look,
It's
being
laughable,
atheist is
guys.
just renaming things and calling it God.
What do you
look.
mean renaming
Yeah.
things? You
That's
don't
exactly what
understand
he
a
said.
God concept. You're applying religion to God concepts. These are two different things.
Well, look, how about this guy? Because let's say it's true that people believe the universe exists, people believe shoes exist, and if you want to call those things God, then under your semantics, it's true that those people believe in a God, given that's how you define the terms. Okay? That's fine. And it's not even an interesting conversation to have. But what is interesting is if you think that there's whatever you want to call it, something that is a mind that created the universe. That is interesting. And that's what this live is for. If what we're asking evidence for is if there's a mind that created the universe, that's all powerful, all good, or all knowing. Something like that.
Yeah, but that's also, you get to that conclusion by already accepting God's existence. That's a secondary argument. So to deny God and then to deny God having a transcendental mind, those are two separate things.
Wait,
First,
wait, repeat what you just said.
yeah, first, like realistically, people who are running a tag argument, I don't think they should run it against atheists, because when you tell an atheist they're being incoherent, they just don't understand. Okay, they just don't
Okay.
understand. It goes
Uh-huh.
way over their head. Okay,
Okay. Well, do you have like okay, so there's no point in you talking to us then, right? Like you should just go, right?
well, I can give you an argument why you're wrong. I already gave you an argument why you're wrong. You conceded, and then
What
you
was the
changed
argument?
then you move the goalpost, right? So I
What was
gave
that?
you the argument,
Well,
Yuji.
hold on. Did you give me an argument that there was a mind that created the universe? Did you
No,
give
that
me?
was you moving the goalpost.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
Is
If
the
wait,
reason
hold on.
convincing God exists? I already convinced you God exists. You
Yeah.
conceded, and then
That's
you said,
fine.
but
That's
this
fine.
God who has a transcendental mind does not exist.
Yeah. If your argument was that the universe exists and you call it God, therefore I think God exists, fine. Like I conceded under your semantics, God
Yeah,
exists,
but
if that's
that
what you want to
doesn't
call
make
good.
sense.
But I
That doesn't
don't
make sense.
care. Yeah, I don't care. If the only thing I'm interested in is if you think there's a mind that created the universe or is a foundation for the universe, and you think it's all powerful, all knowing, and all good. If you don't have evidence for that, or you don't have an argument for that, then I'm not interested in your argument or whatever the conversation is that you want to have. So if you don't have an argument for that, you can just go.
Yuji, you
What?
just brought this up now. I'm just going over. You conceded to the first God existing concession. Now
Yes.
we're at
Okay.
the second argument. Does the God who has a mind exist? Because people believe that.
That created the universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the
Okay, what's the
reason we come
argument
to
for
that
that?
conclusion, okay, so we already have this eternal uncaused cause. Okay, this eternal uncaused cause has to be powerful, okay, for it to
Wait,
actualize, right?
wait, hold on a second. We got to the internal uncaused cause. How did we get there?
You granted the universe as
Okay,
existing as
I didn't.
God.
Okay, no. I just granted the universe exists.
Okay, so did the universe come from nothing?
Are you asking me a question? I don't know. I'm agnostic.
Okay, so it's either the universe came from nothing, which is illogical, right? That
Okay,
would
yeah.
we would that would just be absurd.
Let's say the
Okay.
universe didn't. Okay, fine.
Okay, so
Now
if it
what?
didn't come from nothing, that means it
Mhm.
must have eternally existed. Okay.
That's not true either.
What's not true?
There could have been something prior to the universe that caused the universe to exist. If the universe didn't eternally exist.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Okay. So let's say
Yeah,
that's the
guys,
two
this
options.
argument is useless.
But here's the two options: eternity or we come from nothing. That's a true dichotomy. It's either
No, it's not.
existence is eternal or we came
Kai,
from nothing.
what is a true dichotomy?
I just gave you one. It's
Yeah,
either
I don't.
or,
I didn't ask
this
for an
or
example of
this.
one.
You have
I
two. I
didn't.
gave you two true options. It's either right or
Jonah
left.
Hill. What is a true dichotomy, Kai?
Yeah, a true dichotomy would be you can either go right or left. A false dichotomy would be you can either go left or left. Okay, so
No, no, no.
you have
That's not
two
a. That,
choices that are real, and you
let me
have
help
to
you, Kai.
choose
Let me
one.
help you. A true dichotomy is when you exhaust the possibility space. Um, or well, actually, that's not a good way of putting it. It's more of it's either P or not P. That's a true dichotomy. Okay. So if I say this ball is red or it's not red, that's a true dichotomy. It's when you have a negation of a proposition or um the proposition. It's a
Yeah,
proposition
it's
or
either
it's negation.
eternity or nothing.
Okay? That's a true dichotomy.
That's
Okay,
what I
so it's
said.
no, but you
It,
listen, you said that it's either the universe exists eternally or it came from nothing. But that's not a proposition and its negation. Or its negation, okay? A true dichotomy would be
I
either the
grant it.
universe hold up. Either the true dichotomy would be either the universe is eternal or the universe is not eternal. That's a true dichotomy.
Yes, and
Okay,
that's
okay,
I agree with you, Yuji. Maybe I
okay.
speak fast. I
No,
agree.
you're good. No, you're
So
good.
now, yes, it's either we have an eternal universe or we don't. And if the universe
Yes.
exists, that means we came from nothing. And if we come from nothing is illogical. So, to be rational people, we should hold to an eternal universe.
Well, okay. Let's say that either the universe there's a first cause or there isn't a first cause. So either there's an infinite chain of causes or there is a first cause. That'll be a true dichotomy, okay? Now, um either way, I don't see why you need God. So why do we need God in either of those situations?
You need to rule. You need to rule out naturalistic explanation. How are you going to do that?
I don't need to rule out anything, guys.
Wait,
Um,
no, answer my question. In either of the situations, either there is a first cause or there's not, and there's an infinite regression of causes.
yeah,
In both scenarios, in either scenario, um, the when is God necessary in either scenario?
Because
they're
it's like
but God is
impossible to
necessary
like
for
this.
both, right? Because you're saying
Okay,
something exists.
okay, so why is the God necessary for something to exist?
Because you're saying something exists in this causal sequential chain, right? That is made up of dependencies. So if everything in this chain is dependent, right, we will need an independent to
Okay,
actualize the chain of dependencies.
okay, let's say that in the okay, so in the second scenario where there's a first cause, uh, and all of the other causes after that are dependent on the first cause. That's fine. In that scenario, why is it necessary that the first cause has a mind?
It wouldn't be necessary that the cause has a mind. I wouldn't
Oh, okay.
argue that it's necessary that the cause has a mind.
Okay, then look, from my perspective, okay, from how my semantics is, not yours, where you can call like the universe or a shoe god. A god is an uncaused cause that has a mind. Okay? And if you think it's possible for the first cause to not have a mind, then you think it's possible that under my semantics, God doesn't exist. Okay?
I don't believe God doesn't have a mind. I believe God does have a mind. Now,
Right,
this
right.
mind, does this mind necessary? I mean, it's a part of his nature. But again, when we're
Okay.
arguing God, I don't know what you're arguing. You said a first mover. So are you saying this is a material mover? I don't. That's
No,
why I
no, I
said
didn't say
no.
I didn't say anything about material,
Okay,
immaterial,
so it's
natural
a
or supernatural,
if
or
you're
anything like that.
citing the Christian God, of course the Christian God has a mind, right? If you're
I
citing
didn't
some
cite anything.
first mover argument, I wouldn't say a first mover needs a mind. But
I didn't cite the first movement. I'm just saying if there is a first cause, is it necessary that it has a mind or not?
if there's a first cause, by first
Yes.
cause you mean God.
No, no,
Yes.
no. If there's a first cause, I don't care what you want to call it, okay? If there's a first cause, is it necessary that it has a mind? Yes or no?
The uncaused cause, yes.
Yes, if there's okay, it's necessary it has a mind. Okay, why should we think that it's necessary if there's a first cause that it has a mind? Go ahead.
Pardon?
Well, why should we think if there is a first cause that it's necessary that it has a mind?
Yeah, because we live in a vast universe. So whatever has to create it has to be powerful,
It's
right?
big.
And to know that I can come to this knowledge means I have knowledge,
Okay.
right? And if I can come to truth in this objective reality, it must be coherent, right? So it must hold to PSR. And if I reject this PSR, okay,
He's
I'll
going
just
way
say
off the
that I
rails.
just
That's
have
way off the
knowledge
rails.
because, okay,
Okay.
so I wouldn't have the necessary preconditions. And not literally, but theoretically, if I'm holding that worldview, knowledge would be impossible.
Okay.
Notice
Wait.
how he just made 8 claims that he can't justify. He's
And
stacking up
also,
claims.
yeah, also,
He went into yap mode.
wait,
That's
also, actually, the conclusion of your argument, Kai, is that the first cause necessarily must have a mind, right? But you started talking about the PSR, you started talking about,
That's a completely arbitrary statement.
yeah. You mentioned a bunch of stuff, but what what I asked for is what's the argument that if they're the first cause, it necessarily has a mind? That's what I was asking for an argument for. I don't know what you were responding to, but do you have an argument that if there's a first cause, that it
That was
necessarily
kind of an
has a mind?
informal way to put it. Do you want a formal way? I mean, that was kind of the
No,
argument right
it
there.
can be informal. It can be informal, but I don't see it where the inference was that from what you said, therefore necessarily the first cause is a mind.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you make that
I'll do
connection
more
for us?
formal. I'll do more formal,
It doesn't have to
right?
be formal, but can you just make the
No. I'll
connection?
do a formal argument. Modus ponens. Okay, so abstract realities exist.
Okay.
Okay, premise 2 would be abstract realities require grounding to comply with some sort of PSR. Premise 3 would
Wait.
be
Can you repeat premise 1 and premise 2? Sorry.
premise 1 is abstract realities exist.
Okay.
Premise 2 is abstract realities require grounding to follow PSR to be
Uh-huh.
logical and coherent.
Like that.
Okay. And then premise 4 would be, I'm going to sneak something in here. So premise 1 is abstract realities exist.
Okay.
For example, logic, 3 principles. They're universal truths, right? A thing is a thing universally.
Yeah.
That's a true thing.
Okay.
And it's unchanging, right?
Premise
And
1 is
because it's an
abstract realities
abstract,
exist. Premise 2 is abstract realities needed grounding. And what was premise 3?
I just want to say, I'm at premise 1, laws of logic, abstract, immaterial, universal
Okay.
truth, unchanging, immaterial, universal truth. Okay. Now this grounding, because we have these immaterial, universal, unchanging truths and concepts are grounded in mind, we would also, that mind that grounds these abstracts would also have to be immaterial, universal, and unchanging, granting a transcendental mind.
Wait, all
This is-
abstract objects are grounded in a mind?
Pardon?
You said all abstract objects are grounded in a mind? Is that what you said?
Wait, host, can I
Yeah,
respond?
go
to
ahead.
this?
Go ahead, Cease. This is just
Yeah.
big mess.
All concepts require a mind.
Wait.
So first of all, you can be an atheist and be a dualist, right? But you can also be an atheist and be a physicalist and think of logic as comparable to a map to a territory. Maybe the case of the construction of what we call the laws of logic require a mind, but what the laws of logic are describing does not. Right?
Cease to know. You could believe in unicorns, right? That has nothing to do with my argument, right? So what premise are you rejecting of my argument?
Every
I don't
single
care
one.
what you believe in unicorns, right? That's
I
your...
didn't say anything about unicorns. I'm saying
Well,
that you call...
dude, we have solipsists, right?
Yeah, it's
People
irrelevant.
have different beliefs. It has nothing to do with my argument.
I'm addressing your argument. I'm not talking about other beliefs. I'm saying that you claiming that the laws of logic require a universal mind for what the laws of logic are describing is delusional. It's not. You can't even justify the
Delusional.
premise.
He's
Dude,
saying a
dude,
physicalist
screw
can
you.
explain the
Screw
principles
you
of
and
logic.
engage, okay?
I'm
It's
engaging with
delusional?
you.
Are you kidding me?
I-
What
I-
are the
I-
laws of logic? Stop it. I'm going to
I
press you now
responded.
because you called me delusional. You're cooked.
That's what you are.
Okay.
I gave you an explanation
Dude,
for the
cease
laws
to
of
know.
logic from a
Cease to
physicalist
know.
perspective.
Dude, mute up, bro. You called me delusional. Let's debate.
Oh, you are.
Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Right? So are you a physicalist? Do you hold
Yes.
that position?
Yes, but you don't have to hold that
Okay.
position.
So are your
either.
thoughts physical?
Yeah, they're a result of physical processes. Sure.
Okay. So
But I started off by saying
when
that
you're
you can
saying
be a
logic
dualist.
is physical, what are you saying?
Right. So I view logic like a language, right? So the
I don't
laws,
care how you view it. What are you saying?
I'm trying to explain it, but if you're
Dude,
so triggered,
wait, is it subjective
is
or
your
is it
ego hurt because
objectively
I
a
call you
language?
delusional?
What are
because
you
you're
saying?
quoting tag like a
Kai,
fucking
Kai, chill,
moron?
bro, chill.
Well,
Is that what's
he's not
happening?
making sense, right?
I mean,
If
it's-
logic
Ontology
is
can be
physical,
physical, just like a
okay,
computer.
where does it exist?
So again, by physical, I don't mean just like a chair you touch, right? I
What do
also
you mean then?
think-
I don't know what you mean.
I'm trying to explain.
Let him go. Let him go.
So gravity isn't something you touch, right? But it's a force. It's a phenomena happening in time and space. But I started off what I was saying by saying you could be a dualist, right, and still not believe in God. You could believe in abstract objects and still not believe in God. You're confusing the map for the territory.
Dude, this guy's low tier. Dude, you can
Okay,
believe in
yeah,
solipsism.
you can say
It
that
doesn't
just
make
because
it
you don't know what
true.
logic is.
This
That's not
is
my problem.
nonsense, brother.
Yeah,
Everybody
Hey,
has
guys,
different
you just
beliefs.
triggered.
No, dude, stop
It's
this
nonsense
nonsense.
because you can't actually address what I'm
No,
saying.
cease
Or
to
maybe
know.
I'm too
Let's
mistaken.
agree to this. You understand in a debate, we're debating the matter of fact? Yes.
You haven't said one fact so far.
No, okay,
You're
so you
literally
understand that there is a
quoting
truth
the
of the
most
matter.
laughable non-argument.
Okay, so if we have 20 people who disagree with everyone, we know that there's one correct answer. All 20 people can be wrong,
Are you
but
drunk?
there's one right answer. Do
Wait,
you
are
hear
you
me?
on drugs? Are you under the influence? Is that why you're not understanding what I'm saying?
Let's calm down.
Dude,
Let's
no, you're tripping. I'm saying all 20 people can be wrong, but there's one correct answer. So you bringing up dualist theory of mind, all these other theories of mind
I'm
are
giving you
redundant.
other
It
explanations.
means nothing, dude.
I'm giving
They're
you
alternatives to the religious entailment.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. I'm giving alternatives to the explanation that God has to be these things because you haven't showed that God is necessary for any single one.
Okay, you do realize if I define God as the universe, you're going to concede, yes?
Yeah, we're not defining God as the universe.
Okay,
We're
so
defining
now you're a
God as a
pantheist.
being with a mind.
Okay,
You can't
wait, now
define it
you're a
as
pantheist, and now you can defend your pantheism.
no, okay, this is actually
Like, this is how this goes, guys. I don't
I am
think you know how
responding.
silly atheism is. Defend your
What are you
pantheism
talking
now.
about?
The universe is necessary. You just said it.
Hold on a second.
Justify the universe being necessary.
That was not the argument the definition of God you were using. You defined God as a mind, right? That is what the host was asking you to do. Now, if you happen, now I don't define universe as God. Yes, I would say the universe is either something is necessary because nothingness is incoherent, so something has to be necessary, either a first cause or an infinite regress. Either way, God as a mind
gotta go,
is not the
Joe.
only explanation.
Ain't
You
that
just
good?
said we have a necessary universe, and you're not defending it. You're
Yeah,
That's all I
absolute
said.
ridiculous. And
That's
now
all
when
I
we go to
said.
my premises,
That's
when
all
I
I
say
said.
abstract realities exist, and you say they exist physically, where do they exist, buddy? Is logic a
I
book?
answered this twice already.
Dude, what are you saying? Because when
I
I
answered
hear
this
this,
twice already.
listen, I'll tell you this, cease to know. When you say logic is physical, is this an objective physical truth? And where does this objective physical truth
No, I
exist?
said it's a possible view. You can be a realist about logic. You can be an anti-realist about logic. I'm agnostic on the matter. What I'm providing you is alternative.
This is sophistry, guys.
It's not sophistry.
This
You
is
just don't know
classic
any other view
sophistry.
about tags.
Hey, what I'm gonna do
Tag is
is
sophistry.
tell you everybody else's position, and my position is this.
Wait,
What
I
I'm
have the
showing
same
you is
position
there
as a
are
kindergartner.
alternate
I actually
accounts
don't hold
of what
anything.
you're claiming is necessary. You fucking moron.
Bro,
wait, Kai,
you
what
can't
does
even
sophistry
How
mean?
dumb are
seize.
you?
You do
Wait,
realize
Wait, Kai,
premise
Kai,
one,
Kai, wait,
abstract realities exist.
wait, real quick. Wait, Kai, I
So
just want to
stupid.
ask you a question. What does it mean to be a sophist? What's sophistry?
Yeah, to be seized to know, to be practicing
No,
sophistry.
what does it mean?
He's
What does it
passing
mean?
that so
What does it
quickly.
mean?
I just told you what it means. He's holding no position, using fucking garbage arguments, giving everybody else's position
That's
that
what
doesn't even
sophistry means?
that's not even the argument. What
I
is
literally gave
sophistry
alternatives
is
to
exactly
show.
what this guy is doing.
I literally gave
Okay.
alternatives to show that his argument doesn't show that his definition of God is necessary.
Yeah.
It took 2 seconds to show that there are other alternatives that can account for the things he's claiming only God as a mind can account to. And he's crashing out because he doesn't have a response.
No one's crashing out.
You're
bro.
crashing out and everybody's seeing it.
No, I asked you a question.
And I
right?
responded to your question, but you're too dumb to understand my answer.
No, your answer was, I actually don't have a position. I'm agnostic. And
That's
you're
not what I said.
arguing it like an absolute sophist. Shut up, mute
Yeah,
up, and keep holding your position. Let the big...
I
So-
have
so
three
again-
different
Hey,
other
cease to
points.
know. Let the big
I
boys,
gave you
let the guys
alternatives.
who have positions talk
I gave
about
you
it.
alternatives.
And
I
if
gave
you don't know,
alternatives to show that
stay out
your
of the
position
combo.
wasn't
Because
necessary.
you don't have anything to
You
offer.
can't defend your own
literally don't know.
premises. You can't show that your premises are actually correspond to anything in reality. You haven't shown that your view is necessary.
I don't,
You just stated
dude,
it to be
Cease,
so.
you don't even know if you exist.
You've
There's
made,
no entertaining
made,
discussion with you.
You've made
Bro, I
claims
love
upon
Guy.
claims.
There's
Actually,
no
that I
entertaining
exist is the
discussion
only
with
thing
you
I can
when you don't even know you exist, bro.
Of course I do.
How do you, okay, justify your existence.
Yeah,
You just made a
Descartes.
positive claim.
Yeah, I can't think and not exist. Descartes proved this centuries ago.
Descartes? Do you know how Descartes proved that, you absolute dingus?
Yes, the cogito proves it.
No, the cogito is a non sequitur, you absolute goofball. What is the
No.
I in the cogito?
Right. So the cogito is to be understood existentially.
What is the I in the cogito?
The
You said
I
you exist.
is the
What is
self.
the I
Yeah,
in the
it's the
cogito?
self. Yeah, it's referencing the self. The cogito is to be understood existentially.
Is it the physical self?
I didn't say it has to be physical.
Okay,
I
so it's
said-
not the physical self.
I
What
didn't
is
say.
the I?
I didn't say it's not the physical. I said it
I'm
doesn't have
asking
to
you
be.
what the I is.
You asked me how do I know I exist? You didn't
You're
mention
saying
my
you.
ontology.
What are you?
Can you track what's being said? You
Dude,
asked
I'm
about
literally
the self.
listening to every word you said. I said
Well,
it's
you're not listening to any of it because
you're
again,
saying it's
you're
an
another
I. I'm
egomaniac
saying,
that
okay, is
can't
the I
handle being
physical?
challenged.
You said it's not physical. So the I
didn't
is
say
what?
it's not
What
physical.
is the I?
I didn't
If
say
the
it's
I
not
is not
physical.
physical, what is the I?
I didn't say it's physical or non-physical. What I said was, you
Of
asked me
course
how
you
I know
didn't, because he's a
I
sophist, guys.
see this moron.
Because he's an
can
absolute
actually finish a
sophist.
sentence. That's
This
why-
is sophistry.
That's why he
Okay,
keeps jumping in.
the I
because he keeps
cannot
asking me
be
to finish a
physical.
sentence.
The I
I'm
cannot
not
be
going to talk
physical
over you. I'm
in
not going to talk over
Descartes'
you. I know
cogito.
you're bitter because
Okay,
you have
granting him
the right. That's what you do.
abstracts.
Yeah,
So
I know
again,
I know you're
P1,
crashing out.
abstract
I
realities
know you're
exist.
crashing
You
out. because
dingus.
I know you're crashing out.
No one's
right?
crashing
You
out. I just
actually don't
gave you
understand
the
Dingus.
entire
philosophy.
argument why you're wrong.
I know you're crashing out. You asked me how I know I exist. I never said that I knew
And
my
you said,
nature.
okay,
I never
you
said I
brought
knew
up
my
Descartes.
ontology.
You brought up Descartes' argument for God. You're
No.
actually a geezer, bro.
No.
That was Descartes'
So
argument
what
for
God
God to
showed,
defeat the skeptics.
Descartes' argument for God fails ultimately. What he does ground is that we can know that we exist, right? He fails after that point, right? But when I say that I know I exist, it's because I can't think and not exist by definition. I said nothing about knowing the ontology of my nature. I didn't say that I know my nature to be physical or non-physical. That's an open question. But that I exist follows from the fact that I'm having an experience. That's what Descartes proved. Then what?
Wait, so
follow-
you exist without ontology?
I didn't say without. I said
No,
I
wait,
don't know
yes,
what
you
my
did.
ontology is.
Yes,
Never
you
said without.
did. You
No, I
said, I
didn't.
know for a fact I
No,
exist.
you
But
didn't.
I know
You
for a
actually-
fact that
you
has
actually
ontology or
said-
You
not.
said
Okay, you
irrespective
said
of
no.
ontology.
So you were saying you exist with
you
no
actually don't.
ontology. You're
I
a
said I
goofball.
don't. I said
Dude,
I don't
you're a
have
rookie.
access. That's not what I said. I
You're
said
a
I-
rookie, bro.
That's not what I
He said
said.
irrespective of
Yes, you
ontology.
did. You
I
just
said
said, I
I
don't
don't
know.
have access
Dude,
to
wait,
know.
Cease, mute up. You
That's
just
not what I
said
said.
word for
No,
word.
go fuck
I
yourself.
don't know if I have ontology.
No, I
Stop
said I
making
don't
shit
know
up on the
what my.
lie.
No, I didn't.
People,
I don't
dude,
know
there's
what.
47 people.
I
These
said
things
I
are
don't know
recorded,
what my
bro.
ontology
Stop
You didn't
lying.
say
heard me.
it.
You just
Everybody
said
heard
that. You didn't know if you went on.
Everybody
Okay,
heard
I'm
what
about
I
to be done
said.
with this soon.
I said I don't know my ontology.
Yeah, so
I
you
didn't say I
don't know
don't
your
have
ontology?
one. I said
Great.
I don't
Do you
have
know you
access
exist?
to know what the ontology is.
Do you know
Not
you
that I
exist?
didn't have one.
C's, do you know you exist?
Yes.
Do you know your ontology?
No.
Goofball. So how do you exist?
What do you mean, how do I exist? I know I exist.
In what
because I-
sense do you exist? You're saying
I
you
just
exist. In
told
what
you
sense
that I
do you
don't know
exist?
whether or
this is
not my
stupid argument.
ontology is
This is
physical
very
or
stupid
mental,
argument.
but that I know that I exist because I'm having an experience.
Okay, so you just said
You're asking
mental.
two different questions. and
Okay,
you're
so
too
you just
dumb
said
to know.
mental, right?
That's what I said.
Great.
Okay.
So you exist mentally.
Guys, why are
in the
we
cogito.
giving this clown a platform?
This is referring
See,
Why are we
to
giving
your
this idiot a
mental.
platform?
Do you
Yeah,
know
I'm
what
about to be done.
ontology means?
Yeah, you're gonna kick me, Yuji, because he just conceded to
Why are we
premise
giving-
one.
I didn't
I
concede
love
to
you,
anything.
bro, but
Yeah, he
you
just
have to
conceded to
go.
premise
I didn't
one.
concede to
Abstract
anything.
realities exist.
I didn't
And
concede
what
to anything.
follows is a transcendental
This
mind.
guy goes
And
around.
Yuji, you just ran before the argument.
I know,
I think
I'm about
he
to
got it
run,
wrong.
Kai. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nobody.
Well,
nobody
C's
ran.
just conceded.
Nobody. I
Right.
didn't even
You
go
win,
to
Kai.
see.
You win.
True.
I
You
didn't consider
just said
anything.
you exist mentally.
No, I didn't.
No, you
I
exist
said nothing
mentally,
about
not
mental or
physically.
physical. I
Goofball.
didn't say that at all.
You're,
At no
Goofball.
point did I say that.
you're being very dishonest in this conversation.
I love you, Kyra, but it has to end at some point.
The guy that like actually needs medication. Like I didn't say anything of what he claimed I said. Not once.
I'm just trying to understand
He's
what
funny.
he means by irrespective of ontology. He's saying that you said besides, like you said you don't know what your ontology is, but does he understand what ontology means?
No, clearly not. Here's the
Because
thing.
ontology is not necessarily like an aspect of your existence. It's kind of sort of like understanding existence in a worldview and somewhat like Nietzsche's ontology, right? His idea of like the will to power and stuff like that, about how power is ultimately something that creates morality, right? So I don't understand what
In
what
fact,
he was.
I was very clear to say that I don't have access to knowing whether or not what I am is purely physical or mental or dualistic. But what I do know is that I exist, whatever form that takes. It's a very simple concept, right? This guy using tag, which is the most laughable non-argument ever, and thinking he's some intellectual. This is the problem with people on this app, with the filth bros on this app, right? They come on here, they're driven by ego because they want to feel important. And the second they meet somebody that actually has a background in these things, they crash out and throw a temper tantrum. That's what just happened.
Hey, Cease, are you an atheist or an
Yes.
agnostic?
I'm an atheist.
Atheist. Okay. So,
Here's an agnostic.
Sorry?
What?
You cut out. I couldn't hear you.
Who here's atheist? Who here's agnostic? Because I'm here to like provide some, I guess you would say, convincing reasons. But I just need to understand what's the worldview in terms of religion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you're an atheist or an agnostic.
Well, I'm an agnostic atheist, but I'm like 99% sure that God doesn't exist.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I am an Orthodox, if you...
What are you,
agnostic.
Polantis?
Okay.
Polantis, what are you?
Orthodox.
Okay, you believe God exists. Do you have an argument that God exists or no?
Who, me?
Well, these aren't necessarily
Polantis.
arguments. These are more reasons. I'm just curious to know, especially from an atheist point of view. I don't think they could explain this, but kind of sort of what they're like what they would say to these reasons. Like the first, and I'll go. There's three of them. I'll go through them quickly. The first two are pretty strong. The first one is simply just a priori knowledge, right? Like we know things without inherently having to we know things are true without having to see them or them being physically possible, right? Like time and space, we have like an intuitive understanding of these things, right? So that's one. And then the second one is going to be the idea of free will, right? I think we don't have free will, right? I think like either you're atheist or you're religious.
Let's just start with one. Let's just start with one.
Well, can I just let me get through them quickly, just so
Okay,
we
go
can
ahead.
move
What's the
from
third one,
point
and
to another?
then we'll just focus on one.
So whether you're atheist or religious, like it's all pointing to this idea that like a religious person, God is omniscient, so he knows everything. So there's not any reason why in that worldview a person would have free will. And as an atheist, if you follow science, there are a lot of neurological studies. There's been things that have been shown that but even before you make this decision, it's 7 seconds beforehand, it's already pre-made. Or parts of your brain light up and stuff like that. So the decision is coming from somewhere else, right?
Okay, which one do you want to focus on first?
Well, I have my last one. My last one's a little bit weaker.
There's three. Is there four?
Yeah, there's three. The first one is a priori. The second one is free will, the idea of no free will. And the third one is going to be just an observation. One thing that I find really interesting is if you study ancient civilizations, right? Every single one of them, like I can't seem to find a single civilization that was like secular or apart from any sort of like cultural religion. Like it seems like almost every ancient civilization has like a foundation of cultural religious beliefs to build their morals off of, which I find really interesting. So
okay, I think I get the gist of it. Okay, so which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, we'll do the first one. We'll go and go over the first one, which was the I believe the a priori, right? Like the universal truths, constants, and stuff like that.
Well, I don't know why you would think that a priori is in any kind of way an argument for God. I mean, you can.
Also,
No,
sounds
I'm
like you have a.
I'm not saying it is, right? That's why I'm asking like if you're, that's why I asked you what you guys believed, if you're atheist or agnostic, right?
Okay,
Because
look,
if
well,
you're an atheist and
shit.
like how do you, I mean, you can't say as an atheist that, well, we just can't, like, you literally don't have an argument for, or at least it's weak when it comes to a priori knowledge in terms of like
What does a
intuitively
priori
understanding
mean to you?
truth.
Let's just get started there. What does a
So
priori mean?
I think that it's just basically the understanding of things that you don't inherently have to, like truths you don't inherently have to see. You just intuitively know, right? Like 2 + 2 = 4, or like all bachelors are unmarried, or like,
Okay,
time and space. We intuitively understand these things, right?
okay, and uh, what do you take knowledge to be?
What's that?
What do you take knowledge to be? Do you have a definition for
Uh,
knowledge?
I mean,
If you don't, that's
uh,
okay.
I mean, I guess my definition would be like the knowing of the understanding and knowing of things, right? Like, it's a general definition, probably not a strong one, but that's probably,
That's
for the sake
fine.
of this argument, that's probably what I would use, right?
Understanding of something? Okay.
Or
Well,
knowing and understanding of things, yeah.
okay. Um, so you want to say that people are you trying to say that people cannot have knowledge of things prior to experience without a God existing? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that we do have knowledge of things prior to experience, right? Like we
Okay.
intuitively know things like
Yeah. And
space,
you're wait,
time,
I would
where does that
dispute
have
it
stuff like
to
though.
that.
what does that have to do with God?
It doesn't have to do anything with God. I just saying
Holy.
if you're an atheist, right? How would that be an explanation?
There's
Okay, well,
two.
How would you explain that?
we were looking for arguments for God's existence. Like that was the whole point of this. So if the first point, a prior knowledge, doesn't have anything to do with God, we can throw that one out.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's just
Well,
asking how the atheist accounts for it, but I don't understand why an
that's
Some
atheist. I don't understand why an atheist couldn't account for it. Again, if we are to accept an a priori knowledge, that would just be referring back to logical systems and knowing certain things by the definitions we are applying to those words. But I'm not convinced that such a thing exists in the first place. Because I think that we reason and we construct language through our experience. So I'm not even convinced that a priori knowledge is actually a
you,
thing. But
okay. I have a question.
yeah, some people think there is an a priori knowledge.
Do you think that mathematical truths are discovered, like
I think they're
constants and stuff?
I think they're both created and discovered, but I think the degree to which that is the case is ambiguous. I do think that the mathematics is capturing something about the external world, but it's unclear to what degree. I think it's both is true, created and discovered.
Can you explain that? Because like I said, so this is what I'm looking for, is a point of view from an atheist to explain this. Because if you talk to any person who's religious, they'll just say, "This is my understand," or "This God must exist because these truths exist within, like, these truths are discovered, right? They're foundationally embedded within us, or
Yeah,
embedded within the
but
universe, right?"
I can just say that mathematics is a tool to try to describe physical reality. And as far as that tool works, it's describing some fact of the matter about how reality functions, physical reality, right? It's a measurement of the ways in which things operate. Um,
Okay.
but it's ambiguous whether how successful that is.
Can
Um,
I just want to get back. I want to ask about the how you describe like the idea of mathematical truths or foundational truths within the universe. You said something interesting. You said they are both created and discovered. What do you mean by that?
yeah, that I think some mathematical structures are purely just definitional, right? That they're not corresponding to something out there or even to our experience of that external world. And then some, at least hopefully, um, is coming into contact with something that exists out there. But I'm very skeptical about all of these
Can
things.
you
Like
do an example?
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, maybe I would say maybe something like geometry might be something
What
that
about the gravitational constant, or the constant of the speed of light? can't be something that could be created. Wouldn't you agree? Like
No,
it's
I
not
wouldn't.
something
I wouldn't
we're
agree
waiting
because
for.
I don't think that science provides us with certainty or any kind of universals. I think that we have good reasons to think, science is the best thing we have, but nothing about these laws are certain. We only have, the tools are imperfect.
When you say they're not certain, like what do you mean by that? I'm just
That we have no way of knowing that what we think of as these laws won't change at some point in time or at some other, through some other discovery. I mean, there were points in times where we thought science and the laws that we had were universal, and we had models to explain the physical world, and then those models eventually failed at some point. Right? I think science is the best tool we have, but I don't think we should be naive about what science can give us.
okay. I see what you're saying. So you're saying essentially that at some point, due to some unforeseen circumstance, the gravity constant, right, could be completely disproven, and gravity couldn't, like, we could find something that can essentially blow gravity out of the water, and it wouldn't be.
I'm saying we have no way of knowing one way or another. I'm saying that maybe if we're lucky, we've captured something as it is, but we'll never know that that's actually the case. Like we have no way of knowing.
Okay, so essentially, okay, I'm trying to understand. So you're saying that everything that we're doing in terms of like science, mathematics, in terms of the constants, like this is all just on the razor's edge in terms of like it could change in the future. Like these aren't actual constants; they're just what we understand so far in the nature of the universe. Is what you're saying?
Well, even if they were constants, like let's say that we got lucky and not even so necessarily lucky, but we wouldn't know that they were the constants. Like we are justified in trusting them, but we have no way of knowing that tomorrow, this is the problem of induction, right? Like all this works until it doesn't. And
Hey, where is God in the argument? Where is God?
Yeah, that's what I've been kind of wondering about too.
Well, that's what I've already made my point about like where I stand. I'm trying to understand the atheist perspectives on the universal constants, right? On the idea of a priori knowledge, stuff we know intuitively. Like, how do they explain that, right?
I'll say this,
like, I understand you want to know like my perspective of prove God. Like I'm fighting an uphill battle, right? Like I can't necessarily prove God to somebody who understands the world through imperative or like what's it called?
Casa, there's a problem with your question. I'll say this and then I'll stop hogging the live. I gotta hit the bed, but usually I appreciate you letting me up.
Yeah.
But I just want to say this: there's no unified view by atheists about these topics, right? Like, there's a long spectrum of potential perspectives about what the nature of logic is, what the nature of mathematics is. That you could be an atheist and be a realist or an anti-realist about math and logic, right? Like there's no unified view there. So really, what you should do is look into all the different perspectives on these topics that disagree with each other, but you could still be an atheist and hold to any one of these views.
No, yeah, I understand. So, like, when it comes to like ideas about moral, I know that there's like secular moralists. There's people who believe in consequentialism. Like, I understand that. Like, I know there's different types of atheists that hold different understandings of logic and stuff like that. I just trying to understand, like, as someone. That's why I asked, like, who's atheist here?
Sure,
Let me ask these questions, and what is your explanation of them?
I'm sorry that I couldn't give you a more concrete answer. Just I'm very skeptical about many of these things. Like I don't have an answer. I'm kind of shift between one perspective and another depending on the day. Really, it's all pretty ambiguous to me. So
okay, fair enough. Who else? I guess since you're going to go to bed here, I still have the second point, which is the idea of like no free will. Who here believes in free will?
I don't. But hey, thanks for me up.
Yeah. Take care, Ceasetoknow.
And sorry if I took over your line for a minute.
No, you're good. Don't worry.
That Kai, whatever his name is, really annoys me. So
yeah. That was funny.
So Have a good one.
All right, man.
See you later. Who
Um,
believes in free will? Who doesn't believe in free will? And
Well,
now
look,
we have a new guy
look.
in. Are you atheist, Jade? Are you agnostic?
Christian.
A
Okay.
Christian. Okay.
But Casa, look, I'm not interested in just like talking about random subjects, really.
Well, these pertain to, theism, atheism, stuff like that. Like,
I mean, they're related, but I'm not interested in talking about just related topics. I really want to focus on just one topic, you know?
well,
Does God
maybe through
exist
this
or doesn't God?
discussions we can find like answers, right? Like we can find a good reason for God existing, right? That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
well, if you have one, then I'm just gonna ask for one. If you don't think you have one, then I'm just gonna talk to someone who does think they do.
I can give the atheist tag argument if you want.
I
Well,
mean, I guess
actually,
not. So I guess I'll let someone else take the slot. I'll see you guys later.
Okay,
what's up,
so
bro?
can I ask you a question?
Wait. I'm just real quick. I just want to hear an atheist tag from Scrimba real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so atheism is the necessary precondition for stuff like knowledge, intelligibility, stuff like that. Humans possess knowledge, intelligibility, stuff like that. So yeah, conclusion is just that without atheism, your worldview is like completely like it wouldn't make sense.
Gibberish.
Yeah,
Yeah. Unintelligible. Well said. Oh my
unintelligible.
gosh. W Scrimba.
And
Wow.
and like I would ask the question without borrowing from. They'll be like, "Well, I have, like I can think of like my logic is in God." And it's
Right.
like, well, logic comes from atheism, not from God. So
Right.
you're borrowing from atheism to prove your God. Ha ha ha!
Exactly.
Can you say that
You
again?
dumb theists!
Okay. That's W Scrimba, bro, for real. Okay. Um,
So,
Jade, what? Oh,
Yuji,
what's
can I
up?
ask you a
Yeah,
question?
ask me a question. What's up?
Okay, so you're an atheist, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, do you believe in history in general?
No,
Do you
this is
mean,
gonna be good.
yeah, are you asking if I think there are historical events?
Yeah, in general,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, I do
Okay.
think there are historical events.
So, you believe Jesus Christ is a real person?
Yeah, I think there's probably someone named Jesus around that time period.
Okay.
Okay.
So, you believe Jesus Christ existed?
Sure.
Okay. Um, so, there are historical events that happened, like
Uh-huh.
miracles. Okay?
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people saw him do that. How can you
Oh.
explain that?
Schizophrenia?
Okay, wait. How
I
do we
mean, okay,
know?
let's be serious right now, okay? There were a lot of people, like hundreds of people, who saw him do miracles,
A
okay?
lot of people can have schizophrenia. You have no idea, brother. That's
Okay, let's not be paranoid, okay?
as
It's possible for
Okay.
like hundreds of people to see him and be connected all together in live, okay? There's no
Okay, how
point.
do we know hundreds of people saw this happen? How do we know?
It's in the Bible.
Oh, okay. So the Bible says that there are hundreds of people that saw this happen, right?
The
Yes,
Bible
correct.
is, sorry, let me clarify, because I think I
Okay.
know what he's trying to say. The
Okay.
Bible is what Christians believe. It's different people's testimonies. So like
Yes.
Right.
Matthew is Matthew's point of view. I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that. Or like John is John's point of view. Just wanted to
Appreciate you,
know.
Jade. Appreciate you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and yeah, I can see that, but um, so do you think that if someone says I saw, if someone is testifying that many people saw a miracle happen, to you does that count as one um eyewitness account or a testimony, or
Okay,
does it
so
count
I
as
have a different
500?
question.
Wait, can you
I have,
answer my question though? I asked you a question.
yeah, I will answer you with a different question, okay? So, so
Okay.
hear me out.
Please
The
answer though. Yeah.
the apostles of Jesus, okay,
Yes.
hear me out.
Yeah. I'm hearing you
After
out.
the resurrection of Jesus, they were brutally murdered, okay?
Okay.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Who would do that for a big
Oh.
life? Okay?
Okay. So how does this answer my question?
So it answers that
Yeah.
for them it's not positive to do such a big lie. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Atlantis, what was my question? What was my question?
I don't even remember, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
Bro
Oh
is
my gosh.
trolling. Get him out of here.
No. What was your
Look,
question?
bro. Look, okay. I'm gonna ask my question again, but you have to answer it, and you can't ask
Yeah.
me a question in response, okay?
Okay.
If someone comes up to you and
Yes.
says, 500 people told me, or there were 500 eyewitnesses of this that told me that this miracle happened. But this, you never saw the 500 people. You're only experiencing the one person, okay?
Okay.
And the one person
Okay.
is telling you that 500 people saw it happen. Now, to you, is that one testimony or eyewitness to that account happening, or 501? That's the
Okay. So
question.
basically, okay, it's
Yeah.
not one apostle that wrote it. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of them that wrote it from their side of view, from
Yes.
their point.
Yes.
So it's not one story. It's a lot of stories from more people,
Mm-hmm. Okay, Galantis, what was my question again? Can you
Oh
repeat it
my
to
God.
me, please?
So you told me if 500 people. So you basically say that someone wrote this one guy about lying about that 500 people saw it.
I
So
didn't say
you
lying or
tell me
anything.
that it never happened, pretty much.
No, 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 no. I never said any of that. I just asked the question, and I'm just asking you to repeat the question because you didn't answer me again.
I did answer you,
Okay, what question did you answer?
the one you did.
Which one was that?
He doesn't know. He's just making shit up.
Bro,
Bro,
look, I'm asking you something for a very specific answer, and you're not answering. And I just want you to answer the question. Do you
yeah,
want me to ask you again for a third time?
you tell me that supposedly 500 people saw this, right?
Yeah. Look, I
Eh,
gave you look, here's the question. I'll make it super simple for you. It's either the question is it option A, it's 501 eyewitness accounts or testimonies, or option B, it's one eyewitness account or testimony? Which option do you think it is?
A. And you know why?
Okay. But now you answered my question, okay? And
Eh,
that was the third time I asked, okay?
eh.
But okay. Now, um, now let's talk about why that. I mean, I personally think that's ridiculous because if I'm in court, right?
Uh-huh.
And um I'm in court and I'm trying to provide evidence for let's say I'm providing evidence that somebody like unalived someone else, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, "What's your evidence for that?" And I tell them, "Well, 500 other people told me that they saw it happen." And then the court person, whatever, the judge, the attorney asks me, "Okay, well, where are the other people?" Well, they told me, and I'm telling you, you know, that doesn't count in court, right? It doesn't count as 500 witnesses. It only counts only if you saw it happen. Does it count as an eyewitness testimony? Or
Okay, I get your point,
do you
okay?
understand?
But
Do you understand?
yeah, okay.
Okay,
So
I
I
just want to
want
make
you
sure
to
you
place
understand, though.
yourself.
I want to make sure you
Yeah.
understand. What is the point I'm making? I just want to make sure you understand.
Okay, so hear me out.
Wait. Before you
So
go,
you put
what is the
yourself.
point? Before you go on, just I want to
Okay,
keep this very linear.
bro, I'm not
What is the
autistic. Okay?
point I just made? I just want to make sure before we move on. What is the point I
That
just made?
you think that the apostles lied, that there were
No,
supposed
I
What are
didn't.
$500.
I
you
didn't say anything about
saying?
lying. I didn't say
That's
What are
anything
your
you
about lying.
saying?
It's actually crazy. Look, okay. Do you
Oh.
want me to repeat it so that you can understand it? Because you already don't
okay,
understand it.
bro. I did understand it,
Okay, then what is my point?
bro. I can't think two things at the same time. Okay, I am thinking my
Oh
answer.
God.
Okay, I have
Bro,
done too much scrolling on TikTok. Okay, my brain is
I grant that. I
Stop.
grant that.
okay. So hear me
Okay.
out. Okay, hear me
Oh.
Okay.
out.
All right. Go ahead, bro.
put yourself in the place of an apostle, okay?
No, didn't you just say that they got brutally murdered or something?
Yeah,
Why would I do
exactly.
that? Why
Exactly.
the hell would I do that?
Why would we do that, bro?
Exactly. That's my freaking point, okay?
Exactly.
Where is this conversation going?
Okay, so put yourself in the position, okay?
Okay.
You tell the
Yes.
biggest lie in history, okay?
Okay.
You and your 12 pals say the biggest lie in history,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, oh, let's get fucking killed, okay? Is that smart?
Mm-hmm.
Is that smart? Tell me. For
Would
real.
that be smart? No, but
Okay.
I'm not sure that that's actually
Would you
happened.
do it? Would I do it? No. Okay. That
Okay,
is the
look,
reality.
look, look, look. Okay, how do we know that that's how it went down though? That they got unalived for their um
Okay.
before
So
their devotion to the fact that this happened. How do we know that they got unalived for
okay,
that
so we
reason?
know that this happened because it's historical event. Okay.
Oh my
Okay,
And let me continue this answer. Okay.
okay,
Do
I'm
you
gonna let you
believe?
go, even though I don't want to.
Okay, whatever. Do you
Okay.
believe in like Mesopotamian civilizations or ancient Egypt or ancient Greece? Do you believe in that?
Yeah, I think those were real places.
Yeah. So do you know like okay, there were a lot of people that
Hmm.
were like historicals. Okay, they were writing the history of let's say Greece. Okay,
Okay.
how do we know that it's true? Okay,
Right.
eh,
Well,
that's
okay.
my point.
Okay, so your point is that we know that there is ancient Egypt and Mesopotamian cultures because
Which
there's
were a lot of
written
years
documents.
before Jesus
Mm.
Christ.
Right. And you're trying to say that because we know of those places because of written documents, we should know that miracles did happen because the Bible is a written document of it happening. Is that what you're trying to
Yeah,
say?
because they are both historical events. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, this gets into a different point about um it's basically it's the term is prior probabilities, but it's basically how much evidence do you need in order for something to be probable? Okay. And um, for events that are much more unlikely before you look at the evidence, you need way more evidence to make them probable versus other events that you have a lot of experience of happening or is much um, there's a much higher prior probability of it occurring prior to looking at the evidence. Okay, and I'll give you an example. Okay.
Yeah, to an example.
Okay. So an event that has a really high prior probability is that let's say um I don't know.
Say something
Somebody
simple.
yeah, something that happens in like everyday life. Like my my mom went to the grocery store, okay?
Okay.
And let's say that there's food on the table. And
Okay.
so my mom going to the grocery store would explain that there's food on the table. Okay. We know, I've experienced my mom going to the grocery store many, 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 many times. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I have lots of experience that, prior experience. So the probability of that happening before looking at any evidence, okay, is very high. Okay. And so I don't need much evidence in order to think that it's probably true that my mom went to the grocery store, okay? But now
Okay.
let's look at another example that I don't have any experience of, or like very little. Okay.
Mhm.
Something that's super unlikely, like um there were aliens that came to Earth, and my friend said that there were aliens that came to Earth. Okay.
Okay.
I have no prior experience of aliens, right? And um, the prior probability of aliens,
Okay. And the
um,
question is, do you believe him or not? Okay, I get it. Okay.
right. But look, no. The point is that I don't need much evidence to believe that my mom went to the grocery store, right?
Mm-hmm.
I only need a little bit in order to make that hypothesis probable. But you need a lot of evidence in order for the hypothesis my friend talked to aliens to be probable, right? In fact, multiple people could tell you that they talked to aliens, right? And it still wouldn't raise a probability enough in order to make it probable, right? You would need
Okay, I
maybe
get it. Okay.
pictures and videos, and sometimes even that's not enough. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm yapping for a super long time, so I'll try to wrap it
No.
up. Okay, but look now, what's the prior probability that a miracle happened? How much experiences have I had with miracles?
Okay.
Zero.
Okay.
Okay.
The reality is it's zero. Okay, I get it. It's zero
Okay.
for
Wait, I'm
us
almost done.
humans.
I'm so close. I'm so close.
Okay. Okay, I
Look,
will
look.
answer.
Thank you. Look. So the prior now, how much experiences do I have of civilizations that are made up by humans? They've formed governments, and there are cities. I have lots of experience of that. So the prior
Yes.
probability that there is a Mesopotamian culture and an Egyptian culture is very high. I don't need much evidence.
Mm-hmm.
But the prior probability that there was a miracle, I have zero. So I need a lot of evidence. So just there being a writing of it is enough for me to believe that Mesopotamia existed. But there being writing of a miracle is not enough for me to believe that a miracle occurred. You understand?
Yes, I get your point.
Okay.
No, he didn't get it. No.
Okay,
So,
okay.
okay, the Bible wasn't written by one person, okay?
He's not even refuting that.
The Bible was written by what? One person?
The Bible wasn't written by one person. You know that.
Right. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay.
It was by his apostles,
Okay.
okay?
hmm
So it's higher probability for this to be true,
Because
first of
there's
all.
multiple people?
Yeah, because a lot of people saw him do the miracles.
Yes. But we
Don't
have
you don't you get that?
how many writings do we have of different people reporting that they saw the miracles? How
The
many?
individual. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. How many uh personal writings do we have of people saying that they saw miracles?
But you know what is
But I'm
higher
asking how
chance?
many. I'm asking how many. How many?
I don't know. Probably zero
Oh,
from
no.
regular civilians.
No, because there's at least some people who claim to see some of Jesus' miracles in the Bible, right? So whatever writer that is, that's at least one, right?
Mhm.
Okay. But, if one person came up to you and said, or, you know, they wrote down in their bibliography that they saw a vampire, would you believe there are vampires? Even if there was four people that came up to you with four different bibliographies and they all are talking about the same event, would you believe there are vampires?
No.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm at, and from my perspective.
Yeah, I get your perspective, okay?
Okay.
So, okay, let's do a different topic, okay?
Okay. Sure.
I believe in the Big Bang, okay?
Yeah.
I believe God did it, okay?
Oh
Okay.
God.
What is the
Okay.
probability for this to happen all by chance?
Well,
You don't know, I don't know. Okay, it's probably 0.00 point something, okay?
hold on. I think there's other options other than God did it or it happened on its own. I think there's something like something else caused it that's not God. I think there's another option.
No. I think there is only two choices. Or nothing or something, okay?
Okay. But like let's say there's something that caused it that's not a mind. Would you still count that as God or no?
Well, the theory of the Big Bang, hear me out, is
Wait,
that
you don't I'm
before
asking you a
before the
question.
Big Bang was nothing.
No, that's not what the Big Bang explains. The Big Bang just explains the expansion of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but from the very, very start,
No, it doesn't say
it was
anything about.
like it did a big boom and then all started.
No, that's not how it works. You've been watching too much television.
No,
Much-
but Scrimba is actually right. But look,
What are you gonna say next? The whole universe was in a hot, dense state, and nearly 14 million years expansion started.
but look, okay. let's say that let's say that the universe was caused, okay? It was caused by something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if that universe was caused by something that doesn't have a mind, it's not all knowing, it's not all powerful.
Okay.
If it was caused by something like that, then would you still call that thing God? Is that still God to you or no?
Honestly, I don't believe that there is a chance for this happening. Okay, but
What? You're not
if
answering my question, bro.
yeah, okay, I answer. But
What is
if
the
that
answer?
happened, is no.
No, it's not God. Okay. So what I'm asking you is why should we think that if the universe is caused by something, that it does have a mind and is like all loving, all knowing, all powerful, or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Why should we think that?
What do you say?
I said if let's say we grant that uh the Big Bang was caused.
Mm-hmm.
If it's true the Big Bang was caused, why should we think that the cause has a mind, is all knowing, all powerful, or any of those things?
I mean, that makes sense, right?
What?
But
Why should we
it's
think it's
something
true though? Why should
higher.
we think?
It's something higher than us, you know.
Okay.
Okay, please kick him because this is literally I have a bunch of points and this is
I'm
on
sorry.
me.
Yeah,
Please
you waited a
stop.
long time.
You're good.
Wait,
Oh my
before
goodness.
you go, all right, Plantigus, I think I am going to end it, but honestly, you were respectful and I was like pushing you a lot and you didn't crash out, so I appreciate that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good day. All right.
Mhm.
Okay. Take care. All right, Jade, what did you like to talk about?
Hi. Okay, so I'm a Christian. And you
Yes.
guys were just I have like stuff. Anyways, sorry. Sorry, anyways.
You're good. You're good.
So you guys were talking about the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna backtrack a little. I'm like kind of slow, so don't
Uh-huh.
mind it. But so Big Bang Theory is explaining. Can you just clarify so I understand, like exactly
Yeah.
what you mean?
Yeah, it's basically what Scrumbus said. Or you're asking me to describe what the Big Bang Theory is?
Just in like a short, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
basically.
Yeah, because I don't have like a super deep understanding either. But just as far as I know, it's the theory that um about 14 point something billion years ago, the universe was in a hot, dense state and it started expanding. Okay? That's about it.
Okay, yeah. So my point is, what happened before that? And there was something before that, and there was something in the universe before that, and before that. Something has to be eternal, and that is backed by science. There has to be a start.
You're just saying that there's a causal chain of events that led you to the creation, and by observing certain things in like reality, you're saying therefore it should have a causal chain of events. I don't give you that premise. Like, I can just take it to be that the universe always existed.
Exactly. So yeah, it always existed. It had to be eternal, right?
Well, let's say that there was a beginning to the universe, you know? I don't see what's wrong with that.
No, yeah. So there does have to be a beginning. Like it.
Oh, there
That's just
does.
how.
Wait, why does there have
Yeah.
to be a beginning?
How else would it have started? How
Or
else?
it could have always existed. Like, do you think that God has a beginning?
No, but that is it. He's eternal, just
Okay.
like the universe is eternal. Do you understand what I'm saying? Kind of.
Oh, so you're saying the universe doesn't have a beginning?
It can have a beginning. It's eternal. Is like I'm
What do you
kind of
mean by
like slurring my
eternal?
words.
Can something have a
It
beginning and
has
be eternal?
always it has always been there. Like you guys say that it's
Oh,
always been there.
okay. The universe has always been there. Okay.
So like I'm trying to explain it.
No, you're good.
There's like I'm so terrible at wording. I'm
No,
so
no, no.
sorry.
It's all good. Take your time.
So when there is eternal, because it's eternal. Okay, when it was
Yeah.
the universe was created. Okay, and it was created
Okay.
perfectly. There literally, if something was off, if
Oh, the
something
cosmic
anything was
time
off,
argument. Yeah.
It sounds like fine-tuning it. But yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. If something was off, then it would have
Then life would
wouldn't
not be
exist.
what it is.
Good night, fan, bro.
That's just like such a point for me. Like,
Well,
it's very highly unlikely that it's just lucky, and that it's just
it's not a
luck.
matter of luck. If you're saying that since there's like this very specific thing, and and the probability of that happening is very low, and since the probability is low, therefore God, I don't understand that, because you could just evenly say, for example, let's say there's a bag of jelly beans, and I want a very specific jelly bean that's like 2 inch, like it has to be a red jelly bean. How do I get it from that like big bag of jelly beans? I just keep making more number of tries until I get it, right? So you can get an extremely low probability outcome if you just keep trying. So it could have been the case that there were previous several universes that weren't inside our, specific parameters for gravity and stuff like that, and they might have gotten, destroyed. And this universe that you're currently living in is the one that had that perfect exact um, probability of everything lining up.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I still do believe in my point, and I'm going to respect your point. I do understand where you're coming from, 1,000,000%. But like, I don't know. I can't really change what you believe about that. That's
Well, I have a question, and I think Screamer makes a good point. But um, what do you think? Like, let's say it's true that it's super unlikely that there are certain constants that fall in a certain range that's very unlikely, given that there isn't like a designer, right? But you could imagine that there's a designer and that they create many, many, many different kinds of universes, right? They could create universes without life. They could create universes that consists only of stars. They could create universes that consist of like just a different kind of matter. So it seems like even if there is a designer, it still is very, very unlikely that um, the we get this specific kind of universe that has this specific kinds of constants too, because there's like about an infinite range of universes that they could have created, right? So why should we expect that we get these kinds of constants if there's a designer, right?
I'm sorry. I'm like not following. Could you like
No, it's okay.
reword?
Basically, how the argument you're kind of giving goes is it's super unlikely without a designer that we get the kind of conditions we need for life, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. But my question is even if there is a designer, it still seems super unlikely that we get the conditions for life because there could be many different ways the designer creates the universe. So if a designer could create the universe without life, the designer could create the universe with different kinds of life. The designer could create a universe
I get what you
that's
mean.
like
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So yeah, that's my question.
Your question is like, why are we in this one?
No, my question is why would it be more likely if there's a designer that we get life permitting conditions rather than if there isn't? Because it seems like if there isn't, there's all these different ways it randomly could have happened and happened this way. But if there is a designer, there's also many other different ways that it could have happened. So why is it more likely that it happened this way? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like, just how I view it is like the designer God made it this way so that way he could have everything go the way it is said in the Bible. That way all of his plans can be laid out and everything can happen.
Wait, so did the Bible come first, or did he create things first?
No, the Bible didn't come first. The Bible is just saying like what happened. if that makes sense. The Bible is telling that story.
How old do you think the Earth is?
Sorry, I can't hear you. What?
You're muffled, Scrimba. You like cover
How
your
old do
microphone.
you think the Earth is?
Billions of years? I honestly don't know.
You're right, I think.
Do you take the Bible like literally, or are you like a
Young Earth creationist.
Not like literally. I do think that some things should be like modernized, if you would say that. Like you have to take into context of today, like today's context, if that makes any sense. Like some things will not be the same, but a lot of it still applies.
Sure.
Okay. But all right. Do you okay, I think so I asked you a question, but I don't know. It seemed like that kind of fell dead. Do you have like another topic you want to talk about?
Sure.
Okay.
Where is it? Okay, so I just want to know if you guys have like billions of people have recorded and shared their testimonies of having the same like type of experience with the same God. How do you explain that?
Let's say I don't know how to explain it. Then what?
I'm just saying that would prove to me if billions of people have claimed to see and know and have life-changing events happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that to me may not be to you, but to me that's like very convincing. And I've felt this is gonna sound so ridiculous, but when I started to know this, it sounds so funny when you're not a Christian. I was grown up, I was raised in an atheist household, like kind of just like, oh yeah, God, yeah, cool. Okay, I don't really know. But when I started to get into it, I genuinely felt a change in my life. And you guys could say that that's just you're reading more or you're off your phone or you're this or that. I honestly wasn't even trying. Like I wasn't trying, I wasn't like aware, like I wasn't I'm like trying to word it, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I wasn't like doing other habits to make my life better. I was still doing a lot of bad habits, but I genuinely felt a more positive just peace in my mind. I really struggled with anxiety and depression and very terrible OCD, and those have genuinely like gone away. Like it is a miracle that I can't even describe.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to invalidate your experience, and I'm happy for you that that's how it worked out. I'm going to reply to your previous question though.
Sure.
Okay. About the billions of people, because there's how many Christians in the world? Like, what percentage of people are Christian? Like
3.5 billion.
3.5 billion?
That sounds right.
Okay, there's about
ready to
yeah, he had that one locked in. So that means there's okay, if there's 8 billion people, then there's 4.5 billion people. And out of the 4.5 billion people that are religious, that are not Christians and are atheists, there's, probably most of them are fall into that camp. And so that means most people in the world think the Christian God does not exist. So do you think that, based on that reasoning, we should think that the Christian God doesn't exist?
Like, sorry, I'm trying to like.
Could I pop in real quick?
For sure, always.
So, it's 85% of the world's population is religious. It's about like 50% Christians, 25% Muslims, and then Hindu and whatever else. But her last argument about how your question was, is it more reliable that half of the population is not believing in Christianity? And
Yeah,
I feel like it's the opposite, I mean, half
Most
the
people believe in
population.
Christianity.
Yeah.
Most people in the world believe in Christianity.
Not Christianity, but do believe in a God, whether that
Right.
is Christianity
No.
or not.
Right. But
Well,
what I'm go
half.
ahead.
I said half the population believes in Christianity.
Almost half, right? 3.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. Um. I mean, her argument against the amount of testimonies, and I mean, it's just that was actually one of my arguments. It's really just makes it a lot easier to believe.
Okay, but look, do you
Say
know what an ad populum fallacy is?
it again.
Do you know what the ad populum fallacy is?
No.
I don't remember how exactly it goes, but it's something like just because most people believe something, or most people say that this thing is true, doesn't mean that it's more likely that or doesn't mean that that thing is true, right?
I agree.
Well,
So,
it would be similar to saying that if you and me are having like a argument or a debate on something, and to validate my claim, I'll be like, well, 50% of my friends believe it to be the case, so therefore it's true. Well, that's just fallacious reasoning.
yeah.
No, I agree. It's a weak argument, and I mean it is just a factor of my argument, but the it's just how the majority, and if you look at the foundation of Christianity, how just I mean like we're all seeking the truth, so if you
Mhm.
just overlook Christianity, how Jesus came, did a whole bunch of miracles, and how the whole Old Testament is full of God doing miracles, and it's really right in your face as long as it's true, right? And what happened was now we're 2,000 years later, and it's up for interpretation. No one really, it's been passed down, and any other, I mean, it's like even surprising it's been passed down all these generations. And the I just
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to make an argument, but I guess I don't understand it yet.
I mean we can move on to another topic because I was just
Okay,
backing up her statement, but
that's all good. Well, is there if yeah, what do you have like another argument or
yeah.
something that you
So
want to talk about? Okay, what's up?
there's more going into depth about these arguments on
Hmm.
pinned on my page, but so
Shameless
in the
plug.
KJ, say it again.
Nothing.
Okay.
In the KJV,
Hmm.
there's like hundreds of anomalies found throughout the KJV, like
Hmm.
the words the Father, Holy Ghost, Jesus Christ being said 777 times each. If you do
What's an anomaly?
seven,
What do you mean by anomaly?
just and like I mean the something that is just unusual about that isn't really. I mean, I don't know
Are you
the
saying it's like something that
definition.
can't be explained naturally or something?
Yeah.
Okay. So you think there's a
So,
bunch of things in the KGV that can't be explained naturally, right?
yep.
Okay. Um, I guess um why do you think that they can't be explained naturally? Like it's impossible for it to be explained naturally.
Well, the only other argument is that King James purposefully put in all these cross references, all these anomalies, which are, I mean, you have to, on your computer you do Control F
Yeah.
and you search up, like it's only for uppercase words, or
Hmm.
it's really
I think I've seen what you're talking about.
unusual. I
Is
mean,
it like the picture where there's like a bunch of there's a book like a Bible on the ground and there's like a bunch of lines that like connect like a rainbow almost around the
yeah,
Bible? Is that the one?
those are the cross references, but
Y-
those are
Is that the one you're talking about?
more. No, not as
No,
much.
it's
I mean,
it's a
the
different one.
anomaly,
Okay.
the cross references would be easier to pull off, but the anomalies, like, I mean, I have a whole book on
What's an
how,
anomaly?
and
Or I
like you
thought I knew what
said,
you were talking about when you're talking about the cross references, but now I don't know what you're talking about anymore.
like um,
What's in the KJV that is evidence for God? What are these anomalies? I don't understand yet.
these repeating numbers and just
Oh,
numerology, and
okay, okay. Dude,
it's
okay. So is it like something like there's 7 instances of this word and 8 instances of this word and there's like something special about 8 and 7, blah blah blah, something like that?
um, not. I mean, yeah, to an extent. I mean, I went over
Yeah.
a couple. I mean, it's just seven's very common, and you look at
Why
other numbers, how
why would that be like evidence for God though?
because how would that have gotten to the Bible without, like,
I
you
mean,
think a man
I
did this?
I I bet you that if I opened a Harry Potter book, I could find a pattern of numbers that would be like crazy, you know?
Can I bring up?
Okay.
I just want to say
Sure.
a new little funny
That's fine.
thing.
Go ahead.
Um, so Noah's Ark was found, I believe, a few years ago.
Yeah.
How would you explain the Bible predicting that the exact thing at the exact place that it said it was going to be?
Wait, okay, I really want to know how did the Bible predict it?
Not like, well, I guess predict is the wrong word,
Okay.
but basically saying this is what it looks like, this is what it was like this is, it would be enormous. I believe it listed
Yeah,
Okay.
like
the
measurements.
dimensions lined up.
Oh, okay. The dimensions lined up on the
Yeah,
ark that they found?
yeah, and it was like, it wasn't like just like a coincidence, like it was gigantic.
Do you have like you saw a picture of it or something?
I can pull one up.
Yes, I would love to see. Here, I'll look it up on my computer too. Give me one sec. Wait, you have a book or you're looking it up on your computer?
On my like a little iPad. I'm a little iPad kid.
Okay. No, you're good.
Okay, wait. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Okay, hold on. It's funny because you know, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, but I've heard these stories a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if these are, they're true. Do you know if the story you heard has been like corroborated by other people, maybe even people that are like not Christians?
What do you mean?
Like, someone claims to find the ark. Maybe this person's a Christian, or maybe they're not a Christian, and then other people checked to make sure that it was true, or just one dude found it, and then he claimed that he found the ark, but no one else has seen it yet, or something.
I actually don't know if my camera. Oh my gosh, I have a camera now. Oh my gosh. But that's like, and there's like a. I mean, it'll just keep going. photos of it. But it predicted the exact,
Wait,
like...
are you trying to turn your camera on like on TikTok?
Did it not? Oh, I have to click save.
Here.
Oh, boom shakalaka. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Wait, I'll make you big.
Ah!
Okay. Oh my God, I saw this. I literally saw a TikTok about this too.
Oh yeah, and it's just like...
It's funny in the Bible that I read and like the people that I learned that the Bible or what is it called? The Ark? Yeah, the Ark was like rectangular, not like a boat shaped.
Oh.
Okay, can you Christ's Crusader? Do you know
What
I'm...
if it
the
was a
shape of the Ark?
rectangle?
Isn't it rectangular?
I mean that looked like a rectangle to me, but I
That
mean,
looks like a rectangle.
It
It was
I
like
mean like
it was like boat shaped. Like
was like an oval looking.
yeah. But also that looked like some hills and stuff. It didn't look like a boat.
So, the way that it, like... I don't know the word, because, like, eroded isn't really the word I would
Oh,
use.
sure.
But, like, it's 515 feet long. So it will look like a mountain almost.
Gotcha.
Oh. Here.
Wait, what the heck? How do I change it back to normal? There you go.
so the thing with
Oh,
But there's
go
this,
ahead.
and then this
What's
is
the
what
thing,
it...
Christ Crusader?
This is what...
the thing with the ark is it's like
What's the thing with the Ark?
Oh, he's
Oh,
muted.
he got a message or a phone call or something. I can't hear you if you're outside the app. Christ Crusader.
Oh,
Guys.
no.
So what? Do you think that the in that shape or whatever they found like pieces of the Ark, or that it's just the shape of the hills that seems like it, or you're saying it's
It's
fossilized?
the... It's the...
It's like it, or you're saying it's
It's
fossilized?
the... It's the exact dimensions as the Bible stated, and it's in the... I'm not really sure what the place is, but it's in the place that it said the ark
Yeah.
was.
Hmm.
And I mean, to me it seems real, but I also am a Christian, so, like...
You should look into it more. You
For
should look and
sure.
see if other people agree, stuff like that.
For sure, you're right.
Okay. Let's see who this dude is waiting longest. Okay, these guys are gone. They're
Oh,
gone
hello,
now.
man.
Oh, yo, what's up, Kay?
Yeah. Uh,
Do you believe God exists,
so,
Kay?
yeah, I do think God exists.
Okay. What you got?
So I want to go back to you guys kind of touched on this a little earlier, the fine tuning argument.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Okay.
so this is one of the strongest ones. I mean, and I use this analogy. If you go in and buy one lottery ticket and you win, you're like, that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. You go buy another lottery ticket, win again.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to look at you. You win 5 or 6 lotteries.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it's something you go, huh? Now,
Yeah.
and that's because if we use evolution, we say we have these things over a time scale. You got to have gravity set where it is. You got to have the strong and weak nuclear forces. You've got to have the electromagnetic force. I mean, everything has to be finely tuned.
You're right.
And then the answers I get from atheists is, well, they say, well, let's say there's lots of universes. Well, if you go infinite universes, I think you run into an explanatory problem, because in quantum physics, there's a non-zero probability of almost anything happening. So if you say there's infinite universes, then you say, well, there's a universe where Jesus existed, where a guy died and rose 3 days later.
Okay.
And we don't know if we're in that universe or we're in one that appeared to be that universe. and that's in the actual explanation. Maybe you have another or you can say, well, there's only a certain number of universes, but then something cut it off at 10 to the 500th universes.
Well, okay,
So
let's say let's say I don't think the multiverse response is a good response to fine tuning.
Okay.
But my question is let's say it's really improbable that the light universe is life permitting, given that there's no designer. But what if I'm agnostic? I don't know if it's really unlikely, even if there is a designer. Why should I think that it's more likely that the constants are the way they are if there is a designer rather than not?
Just because if it's randomness, if you're saying that there's no mind, you're left with what ordered this. Is it randomness that did it? And if it's randomness,
Yeah.
we're trying to explain the randomness. The other thing is that there's also in the fine tuning, there's something called the fine structure constant. It's a unitless number that keeps appearing. It's like if you were trying to, it's the fine structure constant.
Oh, sorry. I got a little battery.
No, it's called the fine structure constant, and it keeps appearing whenever we look at things like the electron orbitals or anything amongst that scale.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just that we have to use inductive reasoning. We can't use deductive reasoning. But if you're sitting there looking at all of this, there isn't a non. I guess we're looking for a non-mind explanation for any of this stuff, and then does it look like something designed this or put these things in there, especially the fine structure constant. It's about 1/37 that keeps appearing at random. You wouldn't expect it. Could there be some other explanation? There could be, but I'm saying for somebody who's looking for a reasonable explanation, is this a creation or not?
Okay, well, look. Okay, there's two arguments going on now, and I really want to only focus on one. Okay, because we can talk about the number that keeps on appearing, or we can talk about the reason that there's these constants and the universe is life permitting.
Let's go with the first one. Well, I'll leave the
number one. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is where I tried to ask you, but you started talking about something else. But that's okay. Let me try to re-ask you. Okay. Now, let's say I grant that it's super unlikely that there are these fine-tuned constants. Okay. It's very unlikely if there's no designer.
Okay.
Okay. I'll grant that.
Okay.
For now. Okay. Let me grant that. Okay. But this is what it looks like for me. Okay. There's a designer that's about to design universes. All right. And it has pretty much seemingly infinite options of universes that it could design. Right. If you posit that there's the hypothesis is that there's a designer, it doesn't seem like there's an infinite amount of universes that there could come out of that. Okay? It's like if you give a kid a billion options, like a billion different buttons to press. It's like, to me, it's super improbable it'll pick the button with life permitting universe. So from my perspective, all I'm saying is even if I grant that given the no designer, it's very unlikely that we get the constants that we get. Why is it more probable that if there is a designer that we would get the constants? Because it seems like there's an infinite amount of universes you could choose from. Why would we get the ones that we're in today? So it doesn't seem more likely if there's a designer rather than not. And that's what you need in order for the fine-tuning argument to work.
So I need a reason for the designer to put the constants where they are, to make the universe improbable.
Almost. You need a reason that would make it more likely that if there's a designer that you would get the specific constants that we have. That's the reason that I'm asking for.
Okay. Well, one reason would be to help people that believe in God argue against evolution, because not against evolution occurred, but to have an explanation for the universe that requires a God. So if there's a creator, you'd want that creator to leave evidence, a fingerprint that there is a creator, because because if there's no, and of course the idea would be that God knows everything and knew that the theory of evolution would come up, and we are separated from God. God does not want us to be able to absolutely prove that God exists, that God wants us to have faith.
Okay. Now,
that would explain. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say if you have the hypothesis as a designer, and you have the hypothesis that they have this desire to leave evidence for the inhabitants of the universe to find that they're, but not like prove it or whatever. Now the question is what's the probability that the designer has that desire, right? Because it seems like it's only pushing the can down the road or kicking the can down the road to say, okay, the reason why it's more likely that we get these constants is because the designer has this specific desire. But that seems to beg the question, what's the probability that the designer even has that desire to begin with? Otherwise, it doesn't seem more likely that if there's a designer, then we get the constants that we have.
Okay, good. So then the Christian point of view would be that this existence is created for human souls. That's the point of this universe. It exists for human beings. And so that would be the reason that those things are there. In addition, you would see that's why this world would exist. I mean that's the reason. So what, and we exist, and we would ask the question, and humans do. Why do we exist?
No, no.
No?
Because look, okay, this is how we started. I was asking why it's more likely that they would have these specific constants if there's a designer.
Sure.
You said that the reason would be so that there would be some weak or some evidence that would not that would demonstrably prove that there's a God. But it would only be more likely that, and I would grant that if that's what the designer wanted, then you would expect there to be life permitting constants. So that would solve the solution. But that doesn't work unless it's likely that if there's a designer, that it has that desire. Okay, are you with me?
Sure. So yes.
Okay, and then I asked you, why would it be more likely that if there is a designer, it does have that desire? But then you said something about the designer is creating this universe for souls or something. That I wasn't asking. Yeah, I wasn't asking about that. I was asking why would it be likely that if there's a designer, it has the desire to create a universe that has some evidence for its creation. Why would it have? What's the likelihood that or why would it be likely that it has that desire?
Okay. Why would it be likely that it has that desire? Now I mean, that's if we're just saying the designer, because we're here, we're individual minds that exist and ask the question why we exist. Maybe that's an answer. But then it doesn't matter if there is a designer. Then that answers that there's a God, and that question is done. Then did this? And the question is that once you think there's a designer, that why did God create this design in the first place? It is so weird and not weird, but improbable. With physical laws that are so improbable. If we're on the same, if we're still communicating the same, or at least close to the same topic. If I haven't gotten off topic too far.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the thing. I think I'm gonna kind of wrap things up here.
Sure.
But first of all three of you guys are cool to talk to, so I just want to say that. But is there any last things you guys want to say before I
Yeah,
end?
yeah, real quick. So,
What's up?
what's the evidence? Why wouldn't God make this the reality? What's like, what? Why wouldn't this be what God would create? What if there
Well,
was a creator? What else would there be than
okay,
a
well,
reality like this, where there's a purpose to life? You're put here, and I mean, the whole story behind Christianity is just way too perfect, and
okay, well, how about I give you guys an argument before I go, and then I'll try to make it quick. But I think there is evidence that there isn't at least an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good designer of the universe. Would you be down to hear that argument or no?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So first, I think if um God is all good, um that at least by what most people mean by good is that it would be necessary that if someone is good, that they desire people not to suffer, all things equal, all things considered equal. Would you agree?
Well, how could there be good without bad?
Well, I'll answer that question if you answer mine. Do you agree that um if someone is good, that they desire people not to at least undergo intense suffering, all things considered equal? Do you agree with that?
Sure, but God doesn't tempt. That's where the
Okay,
devil's role plays.
that's fine. So you do agree with that, right? And then we can go on to what you want to talk about.
Sure.
Okay, you do agree. Well, actually, let me finish my argument and then you can give your responses, okay?
Yep.
Okay. So if it's true that God is all powerful and he doesn't want people to undergo intense suffering, all things considered equal, then um it would it would be more it would be less likely that we'd find ourselves in a world that um where a large portion of the sentient creatures in that world undergo intense suffering for a good portion of their lives. And I can give an argument for that if you want. But do you agree with that? Or do you just disagree?
Oh,
Let,
I mean,
let me
I could answer suffering, or if you
No,
want to go
no,
ahead.
no, no. Because I'm going down a very specific line here. You agree that it's less likely that we'd find ourselves in a world where uh, large portions of sentient creatures in that world will undergo intense suffering? Is it less likely if there's an all good, all powerful God that doesn't want that to happen? Is it less likely, or is it more likely if there isn't one of those? Answer the question directly, please.
So the issue though also justice comes into this. So it
No, you're not answering the question. I'm
um
asking you which is more likely from your perspective.
Well,
so so a good God would want the least suffering and would not want suffering.
No, no, no.
Unnecessary.
I'm asking what's, at least from your perspective, do you agree that it's less likely you would find yourself in a world where most of the people or most of the sentient creatures suffer if there is an all-powerful God that doesn't want them to suffer? Or is it more likely that those sentient creatures suffer in a world where there is not an all-powerful God that doesn't want them to suffer? Which one is more likely? That's what I'm asking.
well, the
Yeah.
evidence behind Christianity proves that's the
No.
case, that we live in a world like that. The
Look, guys,
God.
I'm not asking about Christianity. I just asked, I gave you two options and I asked which one is more likely. I
Yes,
want
you're
to
you.
know, do you
I'll
agree?
agree on both of those. On all that,
Okay,
yes.
so you do agree that um that it's less likely that we'd find ourselves in a world where there's lots of suffering if there is a powerful God that doesn't want that to happen than if there's
Yes.
not a powerful God that doesn't want that to
Yes.
happen. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And basically, um, if you look up um how probability works and what evidence is. Evidence is the kind of thing that is um, more likely, if you have evidence for a hypothesis, it's more likely on that hypothesis being true rather than false, okay? And basically, what I'm saying is that we find ourselves in a world, and this now I'm going to be done after this, and you guys can give your response that you've been wanting to say for so long. But um, what I'm saying is, it is more likely that we find ourselves in a world with suffering, lots of suffering, if there is not an all powerful God that doesn't want the suffering to happen, all things considered equal, versus if there is a God that doesn't want the suffering to happen, all things considered equal. Okay, now go ahead. Why do you think that, or what?
Me.
You want to go to?
Yes, okay.
Okay,
I
go
love this topic. Oh my gosh. Okay,
ahead. Okay.
the simplest way to put it is if someone were okay, so God created us, how I believe is God created humans with free will. Because if
Uh-huh.
he created us to only feel joy and only feel love, it wouldn't be love. It
Mhm.
because we would be robots. We'd be forced to do that.
Yeah.
So if someone were to love you, they would have to be able, if someone were to truly love you, they would have to be able to not love you. So you can
Mhm.
see so you can see that they are devoted to you.
Mhm.
So unfortunately with free will, people will do terrible things and that will come with pain, unfortunately. But that's my little response.
Okay. What about like let's because I was talking about just sentient creatures overall, right? And so why do you think that, like, for example, animals undergo tons of suffering, right? For and you think that the Earth has been here for 4 billion years, so you know, there's millions and millions of years that animals were just like prior to humans existing, they were just tearing each other apart. Um, and you know, they were there's parasites that infected them, they underwent diseases, all those kinds of things. So the animals just there's just millions of years of animals just like suffering for millions of years, right? But that doesn't sound, it doesn't seem like free will would be a good answer because animals, they don't have free will. They're not the kind of beings that um at least most people think have the capability for free will.
Yeah.
So what about
No, yeah.
what about them?
So yeah, so like there's like they don't sin, they don't have like moral guilt and stuff, and still
Right.
they see like predator versus prey, like brutality and parasites and fear and trauma and extinction and starvation.
Hmm.
Um, but there's this verse I actually highlighted it. I went to my little Bible app. Um, um, it's Romans 8:20 to 21. It says
Hmm.
the creation was subjected to frustration and hope that it will be liberated from its bondage to decay. So this means the natural world itself is broken. And it doesn't
Hmm.
mean that they like sinned, but their suffering is consequences of a world that is no longer aligned with God because as Christians
Okay.
believe the apple was eaten.
Right. So okay, is that the reason that the natural world is broken is because the apple was eaten? Is that
In
what
a
you're saying?
nutshell,
Okay.
kind of, sort of.
Well, if it's not, then what else? What is the other reason the natural world is broken?
Like I said, just free will and the advantage taken over it.
Okay, so the reason I still don't guess I don't understand. The reason that all these animals suffer is because of what?
Well, animals are irrelevant to God. They're not. You said it for yourself. They don't have free will, and they're not equivalent to humans. So
Right. But do you think that, like, for example, if you think of a good person, right, and this good person is walking by, um, you know. but a lake, and there's like a bunch of puppies that are drowning in the lake. And this person also has a button that if they press the button, a net will just scoop up all the puppies and the puppies will all survive. Do you think the good person will press the button?
So yeah. So let me get into this. Let me explain this. So
Okay.
there's lots of Christianity is large. There's many takes on this, but one of the ideas is original sin, and it has
Yeah.
to do with the corrupted nature of human beings. Before human beings are sent to a body in this earth, some Christians hold that God has already tested us. God's omniscient, knows everything, created us, gave us free will, and then saw that those humans would fail God. Those
Yeah.
humans would betray God. So as a
Okay.
punishment for that betrayal,
Uh-huh.
they've been sent down to earth. Now, Christianity, I mean, there's billions of Christians. This is I'm sort of summarizing the idea. So every human being is a fallen,
Yeah.
has failed, and therefore sent to earth. This creation is created to show a world separated from God. God's like, hey, you want to see a world where I'm not always with you, and you want to be left to a world of chance and random probability? Take a look at what it is, and it's a place of suffering. And then the Christians would say that there's a greater beyond that when you were reunited with God, where there is no more suffering. Every tear is wiped away. Every
Wait. Okay. So you're saying that animals were at least a part of like the tool to show man that this is
that's
what it's
it.
like if they don't serve God or something like that, right?
That would be the explanation. So all the suffering here is like God saying, this is a separated world from me.
Do
Now
you
it isn't
agree that
hell.
do you agree that prior to humans, there's been hundreds of millions of years of animals like parasitizing each other and predating on each other?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You can yes. I mean, some Christians don't. Some Christians say it's 7,000 years. Some say that creation was created, like they say Adam was created as a man. So the universe, the age in the
Okay.
universe was just something
So you do
created by
you do
God.
agree. You do agree.
But
Okay.
yeah, I'll say it's fair to say, hey, yeah, that there's been lots of suffering. Yes.
Okay. And you're saying that um prior to humans existing, millions of years of animal suffering was necessary to teach humans a lesson?
Apparent animal suffering. I mean, God could have created it all backdated and aged, naturally aged. So some Christians could say, like, Adam was not built an infant. Adam was born and it was created an adult. So we
Yeah.
could have a universe where there wasn't really suffering. It's just apparent suffering. God made it look that way. So the suffering has only occurred since man has been on the earth.
I'll see.
Some Christians could say that. Some would say that evolution's been going on, the suffering has been there. So I'll
I'll
take that.
s-
Yeah,
Which one are you saying? Are you saying that there actually hasn't been millions of years of animal suffering, or there
Well,
is?
I'll go ahead and grant the worst case scenario, which would be that there has been billions of years of animal suffering.
Okay. And then if that's the case, then is it necessary for the animal suffering in order to teach the humans a lesson? The
If
millions of years prior to humans existing?
unless God did actually just create the universe ex nihilo out of nothing,
Uh-huh.
and then just made and then backdated the whole thing and made it look like it had been here, then the as suffering didn't occur would be one answer. But that yes, human beings are the pinnacle of the and the purpose for the creation. So the past suffering would be for human beings, um, and for humans to see what this what a godless world does look like and why we should
Huh.
strive for a God filled world.
Hmm. Okay, so if you're granting that animals actually did suffer for millions of years, and
Yeah.
there's this end that God wants, which is to teach humans what a not God-filled world looks like, or
Yes,
a
it's
godless
essentially
world loses. Okay,
redeem humans.
now God has this goal of teaching um humans this lesson, right? And uh God is all powerful, right? Do you
Yeah.
think God could achieve this goal without millions of years of animal suffering prior to humans existing, if he's all powerful?
Of course.
Okay. If you do agree, then it's not necessary for the animals to go through all that suffering in order for humans to learn that lesson. So it's just unnecessary that millions of years of animals just tearing each other apart uh for this means.
Could I pop in real quick?
Sure.
Like I said, animals are irrelevant to God. So I just want to ask real quick, who do you believe Jesus was?
I don't understand the question.
Who do you think Jesus was? Do you think he existed, or do you think he was just a prophet?
I think yeah, I think he was just a regular human.
Okay, so to play devil's advocate, the animals or humans never endured nearly as much as Jesus did. I mean, he got tortured and mocked for thousands of years.
But
So,
why would that make it okay that animals suffer? Like why just because someone else suffered more than the animals doesn't mean that it's like a good thing that the animals suffer, right?
well, I think the better question is, why do the humans have to suffer? Because animals are irrelevant. But the
Well, here's the thing. I know there's lots of explanations for why humans suffer. Free will, soul building, um, you know, there's like goods that come from human suffering, whatever. But it seems like there's less reason to think that um God needs animals to suffer.
well, they're just life to provide for the humans. I mean,
So like,
you read the Old Testament, and
do you agree
there's
we should like punish people who like beat their dogs?
yeah, I think it
Why? Why should we punish those people?
mirrors how you treat humans. I think someone that would beat their dog would beat their child.
Let's say there's someone that would beat their dog every single day, but would never beat another human. Do you think we should punish that person?
Yeah.
I'm an animal lover here, and I honestly, that's such a good point, and I honestly don't know, and that's something like I need to go research that.
Okay.
I just want to
I
say real
totally
quick,
respect that, by the way, but go ahead.
I need to go leave, but I really want to thank you for being so respectful. You weren't like, I've been on a lot of these just trying to like spread the gospel, and so
Yeah,
many people are so rude. So I just want to say thank you.
yeah,
Have a
yeah,
good day.
yeah. I enjoyed talking to you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, yeah. W cat. Beautiful cat, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think I might wrap it up too. But if you guys want to have like, say anything else, I'll leave it open to you. Otherwise, I'm gonna end it.
Oh, wait, peace. Yeah, interesting conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was a lot of good stuff.
Okay.
It's 4.
Oh shit, he got a notification. Okay. All right, man. You guys have a good night, all right?
You too,
Yep.
brother.
Good night.
All right, peace.